Hey everyone, Matt Morris here. A little bit of trying to impersonate Charlie Christian. Hopefully I did somewhat of a good job there. Recently, as of yesterday, my new course called Charlie Christian Playing the Blues has come out. This course is a look into 4 blues solos that Charlie Christian does, each 2 choruses long, from the album Charlie Christian, the Original Guitar Hero. The solos are Grand Slam or Boy Meets Goy, Breakfast Feud, Holy Cats, and Benny's Bugle. That's the one. And this is just a whole course designed around working through those solos and playing them accurately with what I believe are the correct fingerings, which I think is a huge overlooked part of Charlie Christian's playing. Kind of how he lays those things on the fretboard, as well as not just learning the solos, but then going, okay, what can we do with them, and what can we do with bits and pieces from them? So check that out. The link is in my bio. It's $25. There's over an hour-long video lessons, as well as PDFs that cover the entire solos. So it's tab and standard notation with all the chords labeled and all the correct fingerings. The most important thing, I think. And yeah, that can be found on my site. The link is in the bio. And I just wanted to talk about and do a live session, really talking about some overarching things that I think are really important when it comes to Charlie Christian. Less about licks and more about kind of his mindset of playing and kind of what he did up until that point. I don't know too many guitarists who did this, and I think it kind of revolutionized swing and bebop. So the whole thing with Charlie that completely opened my mind and ears and ability to actually think and play, because jazz is way too over intellectualized, is playing out of shapes, but not in the sense of like cowboy chords or the Cage system. It's taking little chunks of the guitar and making melodies through them. And they a lot of them are chords, but it's not just like pentatonics and pentatonic boxes. It's actually like movable chords, and you can see how they relate to another. So what I would just play, I'm going to demonstrate kind of some of those ideas in a A-flat blues. I just played an A-flat blues, and largely I was working out of, if we're in A-flat, this is the 4th fret, this A-flat triad, right? And within this chord, I've got 3 notes, right, that sound amazing, and because they're in the chord, right? But also I've got a bunch of notes around it, and I would argue, and I was guilty of this at the beginning, and then I really tried to step back, is I would argue that it's more important to take this chord or take these 3 notes and then experiment with all the notes around it and see how they sound. So what I mean is, you can take this and then start adding notes to it, or replacing notes. So for instance, if I play this chord, I can put my pinky down and I add the D flat, the 4, and that's a different sound. So extremely simply, I already got a sound in my ear and under my fingers without having to think of anything but sound, and the shape, or the chord. So for instance, this is really, really simple, but this is a great kind of swing era lick of just going. That's an awesome lick. It's a great lick you hear on turnarounds and in the middle of blues, everywhere really. But I don't really have to think of anything doing that other than I'm just adding a note into the other notes I've played. Another thing we can do is replace this 5, the E flat, with an F. Now I've got a 6th chord, because the F is the 6th of A flat. And within that, I've got, this kind of arpeggio, right? So I could go. It's simple, but it's melodic. So I think a lot of where Charlie Christian's playing comes from is taking big chunks of the fretboard and chords and developing ideas off of them with the notes around them. So for instance, let's not just play the right notes, because a lot of us already know what are the right notes and what are the wrong notes. Let's think about adding some chromatics. So the first one that comes to mind, if I'm playing this note, is that chromatic in the middle, right? The guitar is cool because we can see where, like, this is a note that we can play that's right, and this is a note we can play that's right, and in the middle is something else. But we can play through it and it'll sound great. So what if we combined two ideas and went, right? That sounds pretty good. It's pretty swinging. Maybe. Just playing around with that basic chord and then some notes around it. Another thing, I think, and I don't want to give all this away, but another thing that's huge in Charlie Christian's playing is circling around or enclosing a note. So for instance, within this chord, we've got this C note right here on the 5th fret. Well, what if we play it above it and then below it? Or below it and then above it? And then resolve to it? Why not? So maybe we can sound like... maybe going below it. Any of those ideas. And I really think those simple little melodies moving through the chords is kind of the whole thing. Now, what's awesome is we all pretty much know that chord. We know that shape. Most of us learned it here first, that F chord. But what else is, we've got all these other chords we normally play. So let's change from A flat. Let's go to the 4 chord, D flat. We've got this chord. Everyone plays this chord whether they know it or not, or like conceptually. Everyone who plays a blues does that. Or some kind of thing like that sound, right? No one plays though out of that shape. Everyone just does that kind of stuff. But grab some of the notes in there, right? Look at the notes first. We've got an F. What is that? D flat. I'm sorry. A C flat or a B. It's the flat 7 of D flat. An E flat and an A flat. Right? All of that's there. So what if we took a blues idea? So I'm going to give you something you know and are comfortable with, right? You take a blues idea. So let's, just do something where it's like, right? That's just coming down. And then what if now we grab parts of that chord? That sounds way more jazz and way more swing and more like what chord it is than just going, which there's nothing wrong with, but again, if we're trying to get into kind of more of that sound. So, just take some blues licks, but then try and grab parts of that chord. That's what I would do first, Maybe you could go. That was really simple. I just grabbed that part of the chord, the F. Another one. Right? There I went, which happens to be the arpeggio of that chord, but we'll get to that in a second. So you could go. That's pretty nice. And then come back into A flat. It sounds awesome. So you can combine stuff and just grab parts of that chord and you're going to sound excellent. Now the next thing of that is to know what those notes in the chord are and then find the arpeggio for it. So, or some people say is like playing the chord, playing up or down the chord. So you know the notes, we've got F, A flat, C flat, E flat, F, A flat. Now, if you listen to Charlie Christian, you've heard this kind of thing. Something along those lines. All he's doing is just playing up the chord. right? It's not exactly the shape of the chord, but it's all the harmony of the chord. Right? And that sounds great, and it's a good mix of jazz and leaning on the actual chord and the harmony, but also just playing the blues. So take that idea and just experiment. Just going straight up the arpeggio. I know I added some stuff, but just go straight up and come down. And you got something. Now reverse it, right? Because if you can go up, you can go down with it. So you can go. And you got some cool ideas there, right? Anything of that nature. So experiment with the actual grip, but then experiment with looking at the notes and then move through them.